He only loved me when no one else was around. In private, he made me feel like I was his whole world. But the moment other people were there, it was like I didn't exist. I thought it was just his way of loving. But deep down, I didn't realize I was slowly breaking. We met in the most unexpected way, and right from the start, he made me feel like I was special. His smile, his words, the way he gave me attention, I couldn't help but believe he was different. He wasn't like the others who came and went so easily. With him, I thought I had finally found someone who truly saw me, someone who would stay. At first, everything felt perfect, but slowly, little cracks began to show. It wasn't obvious at the start. It was more like tiny moments that didn't make sense, moments I brushed off because I wanted to believe in him so badly. When we were alone, he was so affectionate. He'd hold me close, kiss my forehead, whisper things like, "You're the only one who gets me." In those private moments, I felt like the center of his universe. I felt chosen. But the second we stepped outside, it was like a switch flipped. Suddenly, the man who called me his everything acted like I was nothing. I remember one night at a party. I walked in with him, thinking he'd proudly introduce me to his friends. But instead, he drifted off the moment we arrived. Hours passed, and I was just there, standing alone, holding a drink, watching him laugh and joke with everyone else. When people asked who I was, he just said, "Oh, that's my friend. My friend." Do you know how that feels? To go from being someone's world in private to being reduced to a stranger in public? It's like whiplash. And yet I stayed quiet. I told myself he was just shy, or maybe he wasn't ready to make things official. Another time, I reached for his hand in front of others. Just a simple gesture, but he pulled away so quickly, like my touch burned him. Later, when we were alone, he apologized, kissed me, and told me I was overthinking. He said, "You know I care about you, right?" And I believed him, because I wanted to, because I was scared to lose him. That became the pattern. He loved me when no one else could see. He made me feel alive when we were hidden away. But the moment there were eyes on us, I disappeared. He'd walk a few steps ahead of me, talk to everyone else, but barely acknowledge me. I started to feel invisible. Deep down, something didn't feel right. I knew love wasn't supposed to feel like a secret, but every time I tried to bring it up, he had excuses. He'd say, "I just don't like people in my business," or "I want to keep things private so no one ruins it." And those words sounded protective, even sweet, at first. But over time, they just felt like another way of saying, "I don't want people to know about you." I told myself, maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe he really was just a private person. But the truth was, his version of love only existed when nobody else was watching. And I was too blinded by hope to see it for what it was. A warning sign I should never have ignored. The moment of truth came when I least expected it. It wasn't some big fight. It wasn't even something he said directly to me. It was a small moment, but it hit harder than anything else. One night, I was scrolling through my phone when I saw a story he posted. At first, I smiled, thinking maybe it was a picture of us. But then my stomach dropped. It wasn't me. It was him with another girl. And not just standing next to her, they were close, laughing, with his arm wrapped around her like he used to hold me. I froze. My hands shook. I must have replayed that story 100 times, hoping maybe I was seeing it wrong. But there it was, plain as day. The same man who told me he didn't want people in our business was perfectly fine showing her off to the world. The betrayal was instant, but the confusion hurt even more. I kept asking myself, why her? Why was she worthy of being loved in public when I was only good enough in private? And it didn't stop there. At the next get-together, I saw him in person, standing across the room. He looked right through me, like I wasn't even there. But when she walked in, he lit up. He ran to her, hugged her in front of everyone, introduced her proudly like she was his prize. And I just stood there, invisible, trying not to cry in front of people who didn't even know I existed in his life. That was the moment everything shattered. All the excuses, all the times he said he just wanted to be private, all the nights I convinced myself to stay, it all came crashing down. I finally saw it for what it really was. He wasn't protecting our love. He was hiding me, because I was never the one he wanted to show the world. In that instant, the love I thought we had felt like a lie. My chest ached, my eyes burned, and for the first time, I couldn't deny the truth. I wasn't his partner. I was his secret. I couldn't stay silent anymore. After seeing him with her, after being humiliated over and over again, I finally confronted him. My heart was racing. My hands were trembling, but I needed answers. I asked him straight out, "Why are you showing her off, but you've never once called me your girlfriend in public? Why am I only good enough when we're alone?" And do you know what he did? He laughed. He actually laughed, like my pain was a joke. Then he shook his head and said, "You're overreacting. You're being dramatic again." That word, overreacting, he used it every single time I brought up something that hurt me. And in that moment, I realized he was trying to twist everything, make me feel crazy for asking for the bare minimum, respect. I pressed harder. I told him I saw the pictures. I saw the way he held her in front of everyone. And instead of apologizing, he flipped it on me. He said, "Why were you even stalking my page? You're too insecure. That's the problem." That's what manipulators do. They take your truth, your evidence, and they turn it back on you until you start questioning yourself. And I'll admit it, for a second, I almost believed him. I almost apologized for his betrayal. But then he went further. He said, "I never promised you anything serious anyway. You knew what this was." As if all those nights he whispered, "I love you," suddenly didn't mean anything. As if I had just imagined the relationship we built. Hearing that broke me in a way I can't describe. I wasn't just being ignored anymore. I was being erased. My love, my loyalty, my time, he reduced it all to nothing with a few cruel sentences. That was the moment I understood. It wasn't that he didn't know how to love me in public. It wasn't that he was shy or private or protecting us. The truth was simple, and it cut the deepest. He never loved me at all. He just loved the way I made him feel when no one else was watching. After that confrontation, I didn't walk away right away. And honestly, that's the part I'm most ashamed of. I stayed. I let his words echo in my head until they became my own thoughts. I started doubting myself. Was I really overreacting? Was I being too emotional, too clingy, too needy? He made me believe that asking to be loved openly was asking for too much. And little by little, I started to shrink. I stopped speaking up when something bothered me. I stopped reaching for his hand in public because I already knew he'd pull away. I stopped expecting him to introduce me as his girlfriend because I was tired of being disappointed. It was like I was slowly erasing myself to fit the version of me he wanted. Silent, invisible, hidden. And the longer it went on, the more I isolated myself. I stopped telling my friends what was happening because I was embarrassed. I didn't want to hear them say, "You deserve better." I didn't want to admit they were right, so I lied. I told them things were fine, when in reality, I was crumbling inside. Nights were the hardest. I would lie awake, replaying every interaction in my head, trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. I'd stare at the ceiling and wonder why I wasn't good enough to be loved out loud, why he could show her off, but not me. And that question ate away at me every single day. It made me feel small. It made me feel unworthy, like I was someone to be hidden, someone to be ashamed of. And worst of all, it made me stop trusting people altogether. Because if the man who said he loved me could treat me like a secret, How could I ever believe anyone else? This went on for months. Months of pretending I was okay. Months of hoping he would change. Months of losing myself piece by piece. Until one day, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back at me. My eyes looked tired. My smile was gone. And I realized I had become a shadow of who I used to be. That was when I knew. Enough was enough. If I stayed any longer, there'd be nothing left of me to save. The turning point came on a night that should have felt ordinary. We were sitting in his apartment, the TV on in the background. But I wasn't really watching. I was staring at him, at the man I had given so much of myself to, and I suddenly felt nothing. No warmth, no safety, no love, just emptiness. In that silence, it hit me. I had been fighting for a relationship that didn't even exist. I was clinging to words he whispered in private while ignoring the truth he showed me in public. And I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't make a scene. I didn't cry or scream or beg. I just stood up, grabbed my things, and told him quietly, I can't do this anymore. And for the first time, I meant it. He tried to downplay it, of course. He smirked, said, You'll be back. You always come back. But this time, he was wrong. Because I had finally realized something he never wanted me to see. I deserved better. I deserved someone who wasn't afraid to love me out loud. Walking out of that door felt heavy and freeing at the same time. Heavy because I was leaving behind the person I thought he could be, but freeing because for the first time in months, I chose myself. And that was the real ending, not the day he humiliated me, not the day he gaslit me, but the day I decided I was done living as someone's secret. That's the day I finally took my power back. Looking back now, I realize there were lessons I should have learned much earlier. Painful lessons, but ones that I carry with me every single day. First, if someone only loves you in private, it isn't love. Real love doesn't hide. Real love doesn't make you a secret. If they're proud of you behind closed doors, but ashamed of you in public, that's not love. That's convenience. Second, love without respect isn't real. Words mean nothing if their actions don't back them up. Someone can say I love you 1,000 times, but if they can't respect you, honor you, and stand beside you, those words are empty. And third, you should never have to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's comfort. The right person will never make you feel invisible. They will never make you doubt your worth just so they can feel bigger. You don't need to hide or apologize or beg to be loved the way you deserve. I learned the hard way that love isn't supposed to hurt like that. But I also learned that walking away isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of healing. And maybe, just maybe, it's the first step toward finding the kind of love that doesn't need to hide. For the longest time, I thought I wasn't enough. But the truth is, he wasn't enough for me. Real love doesn't hide, and real love doesn't make you feel invisible. If you've ever been through something like this, you're not alone. Have you ever felt like someone only loved you in private? If this story hit home, comment me below or share your experience. I read every single one. And if you want to hear more stories like mine, don't forget to subscribe. Your story matters, and sometimes sharing it is the first step toward healing.